There's a growing and insidious trend in right-wing media, broadcast, print, and social media. It is to take highly misleading and selectively edited videos of President Biden directly from Republican National Committee social media accounts and then use those videos to spread messages virally to cast doubt on President Biden's fitness for office. Here is this headline from the New York Post, quote, Biden appears to freeze up, has to be led off stage by Obama at Megabucks LA fundraiser. The full video posted by Biden finance chair on Twitter shows something entirely different. Biden reacting to applause and then walking off stage with former President Obama. It comes less than 1 week after the New York Post made a cover out of another piece of deceptively edited tape, calling him meanderer-in-chief due to what they claim was Biden walking away during a skydiving demonstration during the G7 summit last week. The only problem is that the full video, which emerged almost instantly, shows Biden was going over to congratulate one of the skydivers who's cropped out of the video entirely. Both the articles are based on cheap fakes, videos of real events that are intentionally manipulated to fool viewers, released on an RNC opposition research social media account with zero independent fact-checking by these so-called journalists and spread throughout the right-wing ecosystem. And we would take the hand-wringing by right-wing media about Biden's mental fitness in videos intentionally manipulated to make him look unfit, maybe a little more seriously if they weren't radio silent about the repeated, glaring, and real mental lapses happening behind podiums and on camera on the part of Donald Trump. Remember his story about his cognitive test, acing it over and over again? He told the story again over the weekend with a vital, glaring mistake. Listen.
I said, doctor, you know Doc Ronnie, right? Ronnie, do you know Ronnie? Ronnie Jackson? I said to the doctor, it was Dr. Ronnie Jackson, the White House doctor, Jackson, Ronnie Jackson. Dr. Ronnie Johnson. Does everyone know Ronnie Johnson, congressman from Texas? I love Doc Ronnie. I love Doc Ronnie. But I said, what do you think about a cognitive test, Ronnie? They ask it to you. They give you 5 names and you have to repeat them. Sir, I'm going to give you 6 names. Good. They look at them. A chair, a hat, a badge, a necklace, a light, a group of people, Ohio, a giraffe, a tiger, or this, or that, a whale. Which one is the whale? Person, woman, man, camera, TV. They say, that's amazing. How did you do that? I aced it twice. I aced it, and I aced it. I aced both of them. Aced it. I aced it. Every question right.
Claire, Eddie, Tim, and Andrew are back. I mean, Eddie, I don't love covering this, but Trump is forcing the issue. And let me just say this about the test he's taking. It's like a sober person taking the DUI test, right? Like, he shouldn't be bragging about acing the screen for dementia unless he's aware of something that he's trying to keep from his supporters. What do we make of this? What do we think of this? How do we cover this? What are your thoughts, Eddie Glaude?
I mean, you know, I've been trying to process it from the last segment to now. We know who this guy is. We know his character. We know the danger that he presents. And we also know that millions of Americans support him. We can come up with ads. We can disclose or illustrate his failings, his cognitive decline. We can do all of that, and we still know that millions of Americans support him. And so, you know, what I was thinking about in relation to the last segment and in this segment, Nicole, is that we keep presuming that these are rational actors. Even the low information voters, we're saying that if only they got more information, they will then make the rational decision. Now, we have to conclude that this guy at the top of the ticket of the Republican Party, something is not right. And I'm not saying that they're irrational, but there are passions at work here. And we keep arguing on the grounds of rational decision-making when there's this existential question at the heart of his success and ascendance, and passions are animating it. There are folk who support this guy, even with this evidence, because they feel they're losing control of the country. And we got to address that, it seems to me, Nicole, if we're going to get to the heart of the rot.
Well, Tim, Eddie, of course, bottom line this for all of us. I think there are 2 things to do here. I mean, one, it is time to allow the hardened base to be the hardened base and to just stop with it. I mean, I was part of, I went out and I think I did 20 packages, 20 pieces. In Trump They Trust was the name of the series. And it was an honor to do it. And I loved understanding the Trump voter. But I went back after Flynn was fired. I went back after Mueller was tapped. And I think we knew in early 2017 that there's nothing that can make the hardened base that loves Trump not love him anymore. But Trump knows that isn't enough, right? That's why Trump keeps taking the Mocha test from behind podiums, because Trump sees something in his own data that being a convicted felon, that his own diminished performance, he's not this. I mean, those clips interspersed from 16 to 24, he is a different candidate in 24 than he was in 16, and he seems to know it.
I think for sure, and I absolutely agree with that. I also want to say I totally agree with Eddie. I was thinking the same thing during the commercial break. We're on the same page. It is disheartening, right? I was on my only vacation of the year last week, and to come back and to have to do this with this lunatic, have to watch that clip, sit there and be like, how is this person? How are we in a place where, after all we've been discussing this hour, 47% of the country is still going to want this person to be president? It's extremely disheartening and it's frustrating. But, we can't just be made tired by it, right? You have to figure out, okay, how can you keep it at 47 or 46 so we don't have to deal with a second Trump presidency? And I think that in this clip, the important thing to discuss here is 2 points. One is, you mentioned the New York Post twice. It's the Murdochs that are doing this. And we have to just say it. And it is the Murdochs that are advancing this stuff. It's happening on Fox. It's happening now in the New York Post. It was only 2 years ago where the Murdochs, like Mitch McConnell, like everybody else, saw Trump for who he was, made fun of him on the front page of the New York Post. Remember, Florida Man makes an announcement when Trump announces his speech. Well, now they're doing Florida Man's propaganda for him again, all right, because they want to have access. And so I think it's important to call that out. And number two, it's important to shame this person and call him back, because it's nice to fact check and correct the record about the Joe Biden videos. You have to do that, I guess. But really, the only way to fight fire with fire is to show people the real video of Trump, and to do that in all of the different venues that we've been discussing this hour. And that's going to be a job for the campaign and the media and all the allies in the pro-democracy coalition.
Well, Tim, I'm going to press you again. I mean,
Please.
Even the corrected videos, I mean, a fraction of the people who saw the manipulated ones would have seen the full video. I went and looked for it because I said, this can't be. I've sat across from him. There's got to be more. So what is the fire with fire? Because this is where I love what I've seen in terms of the paid messages from the Biden campaign. I am concerned about what you just described, that the fire with fire competes with, should we be on the high road or the low road? And I really, 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 really hope that they understand that the election will not be won or lost on the high road. It will be won or lost by getting on the low road and pushing back against the, crap that they're putting out there about President Biden. Say more about how you do that.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I'm not happy with this either. I'm with you. It's the same thing. You're doing it on this show. We at the Bulwark. There was a video from 2 weeks ago where they stopped it right before Biden sat down and made it look like he was paused in midair, which if you just run it one more second, you saw he was sitting down. We ran the corrected video on there. But again, the number of people that see it is going to be fewer. That's just the nature of the communications business. That's the nature of disinformation. So what is it? Donald Trump's got to be in people's faces. I mean, every time Donald Trump is talking, he is saying stupid stuff. He is saying extreme things that people that are not popular. He doesn't look good, by the way. Let's just be honest. The face that has gone from orange to burnt sienna. Everyone, you can get the videos from Mar-a-Lago where you see the real Donald Trump underneath the burnt sienna face. They've got to mock him. And they've got to make him look like what he is, which is a increasingly deranged elderly person that is a convict. And you got to do it with short videos that people are going to laugh at on TikTok. I mean, it's not the high road. It's not the Lincoln Douglas debates, but it's our reality.